Hello, welcome to AAU Talks on AAU TV. I am your host, Georgina Mason. Today on our career guidance session, we will be discussing civil engineering. Here with me in the studio are Engineer Theophilus Anand, who is the Director of He1 Engineering Limited Accra, and Engineer Richard Osei-Appiah, who is the Executive Director of Riospan Limited Accra. Welcome to AAU.
Thank you.
So we will take a very short break. See you when we get back.
Kampala International University. You are the torch that lights above. In you we see a future bright, and by you the nation gaineth from services pure. The emblem that you chose is the message. Unique in great and truly the giants. With such a height of success is true, but with such a size not trust is surmountable. Equipped with knowledge, down to earth, we go out of your gates with dignity. May your vision bright and knowledge so above be manifested.
Welcome back to AAU Talks. Our topic is career guidance in civil engineering, and our guests are Engineer Anand and Engineer Appiah. So to kick it all off, what would you say civil engineering is, Mr. Anand?
Yeah, civil engineering basically is the design, construction, and maintenance of our physical and our natural environment. If I refer to the physical environment, the building that we sit in here, the natural environment, basically when we talk about sea defense projects, flooding and all those things, they all falls under the work of a civil engineer.
Okay. Mr. Appiah, are there different fields in civil engineering?
Yes, we have several fields. Basically, we have the water resources. We have geotechnical aspect, geotechnical engineering. We have highway and transportation, sanitation, engineering, and also we have structural.
So which areas do you specialize in?
You graduate with a basic engineering degree, you get a BSc, and then you move into practice. And when you move into practice, you must choose an area that you have interest in, you have special interest in. I am now into project management and construction. And then to go back to your first question, I think I have to break it down. Yeah. The water that you drink at home, the road that you drive on, the church building that you sit in, your schools, even the food that you eat, all civil engineers have a role to play in how you get these things. Because before you get good water to drink, first we must impound the water with a dam. We impound it with a dam, and then we treat it. It goes through a treatment system, a treatment plant, and then we pump them. All these things, the calculations behind, the design and everything behind, they all falls under the work of a civil engineer.
Okay.
And then the road that you also drive on. You sometimes, maybe to you as a layman, you see machines working and all that. But before those things start, civil engineer will have to do a feasibility study. And then you have to test the soil. You have to look at do traffic study. Have to look at the loads that will the tracks, the loads that the road can bear before you would provide a design, and then they will move into construction. And then after construction also we have maintenance of those structures. So civil engineering really is very, very,
Very
very broad.
broad.
Very, very broad. Even the chair you sit on, a civil engineer will have to design the stability of the chair before it can be certified that it's safe for you to sit on. Yeah.
Okay. And please tell us the area you specialize in.
Yes, I'm into project management and construction.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, I work on projects. Yes, I do the construction of projects.
Yeah, I have specialized in water resources.
Water resource.
Yeah, in irrigation, drainage, more of water-related issues. At the moment, I am handling a project. We are constructing a dam. A dam that can store about 20 million cubic of water for a year. And it can irrigate almost 1,000 hectares. When I say 1,000 hectares, maybe for the purposes of layman,
Yes.
1 hectare is one football field. So it can distribute and supply about 1,000 football fields for agriculture purposes in the Upper
For
East.
a year.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So basically, my specialty is in irrigation.
Okay. So what made you choose civil engineering as a career option?
My father used to work at Ghana Water and Sewage. And I had interest in physics, especially physics and then mathematics when I was in secondary school. And then also I had cousins and other relatives who were in front of me who also studied civil engineering.
So it's a family business.
So naturally, it's like I was just advised to take it up, and I took it up, and then and it's been good. It's been okay.
I think for my case, it was the old man who was always these days. We can't even choose courses for our children.
No.
Because those times, try and go and do civil engineering. It's a very good course. And that piqued my interest, and I went into civil. And I have not regretted going into it.
So are there some character traits of a person that would make the person more likely to pursue civil engineering?
Yes, I would say so. And a civil engineer should be able to think far. Like maybe what it would take an ordinary person to think of, maybe to take the person maybe a year, or a civil engineer can look at things and then come out with a solution in a very short time because of the training that we had. You see, so, and secondly, you must be prepared to serve. You must be patriotic, because some of the areas that we go to work, if we ask maybe an ordinary citizen to go there and work, the person will say that no. And I have worked in virtually every part of this country. I know this country from east to west, from the north to south. From Tumu to Boku to Paga to Sefi and Nzima, all those areas are from plains. You see, I have been to all those places, because you get there and you see that humanity still have a lot of needs, and you need to provide them as a civil engineer. When I went to Afram Plains, we worked on about 90 kilometers of feeder roads to very remote villages. They've never even seen a vehicle before. You won't believe it. Yes. And we have to make sure that we build these roads, at least some feeder roads, to serve all these people. So that some of them, even the women, the nearest hospital could be 20, 25 kilometers, 50 kilometers away. But vehicles cannot even go to those areas. And sometimes they have to carry them on bicycles, through forests and all that. So the work of the civil engineer is to make sure that he builds a road to serve all those communities, apart from their health needs, education-wise, and then their farm products also. he can bring them to the nearest market and also sell them. So you must be prepared to serve anywhere, in any part of the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any attributes that are given to engineers? Like, I know when you meet someone who can talk a lot, you say, oh, journalism or being a lawyer might be good for you. Are there any others?
I think an engineer must be very analytical, must be able to analyze, because we do a lot of analysis. So if you are able to assess and analyze situation, then you will be a good engineer. Because the moment you see people talking and you just take them as it is, you have to go beyond. As my colleague said, you must be able to see beyond the unseen. Sometimes you are given a paper, just designs, that you have to be able to create what is on paper, transfer what is on paper on the ground for it to be seen and be usable. So as an engineer, you must be a deep thinker. If you are the type of lazy people, those who don't want to think deep, you can't be.
So if I want to study engineering in a higher education institution, what are some qualifications that I would need?
You must be a science student.
Science students.
And you must
Okay.
be good, or very, very good in mathematics, physics, and then chemistry. Okay, at time it was physics, chemistry, mathematics, and we had something called hard maths. I think you have it as elective maths, but it's still below our standard. It's still below our... so you must be a science student, and you must be good in mathematics and physics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and physics.
Yeah, the reason why he's saying that is there are some of the science students who are not very good, but they are good in biology. And in this case, you can just direct yourself to the medicine or the pharmacy. But when you want to go into engineering, then your mathematics might be strong and sharp.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So are there some schools in Africa that are noted for producing good quality or the best quality engineers?
I wouldn't go far, but I think University of Ibadan.
In
About
Nigeria?
UST, you know,
I know of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So they are noted for
where
producing-
we are met, you know.
But
Okay.
I can't talk much about other universities in Africa.
Okay.
What I know
But these
about-
days, I think there are some private schools also coming up with it. During our time, it was only UST that was produces engineers. So,
Okay, so when you were in school during your time, where do you feel like the education you received in the institutions helped you on your career path? Was it informative enough? Did it give you the push, or did you end up in the working environment and realize you didn't really learn much from school?
How would I put it? I think the education that we had was good. Yeah, it was good. The school played its part. And then when you come out also, you must be prepared to learn. Yes. And whatever you learned at school, most times you don't really appreciate them because it's like virtual study.
Yeah.
But when you come out and wherever you find yourself, I started working for an irrigation company. Yeah, for an irrigation consultancy. That is where I started from. And I have to restart everything again and steady, go back to my hydraulics and everything. Then I got to appreciate those things that we were taught. So it is okay. Yeah, the quality of education offered in this thing.
I think one thing we must also realize is it is the foundation we are given.
Yeah.
We have the basic idea about what we are supposed to do. The real thing will be done when you get out of it. Go to the field. Well, for instance, lawyers are not trained based on cases they meet at school. When you come out, you have to go through the training again, go to the court and listen to cases, and based on that, you get experience.
Yeah.
So we are also introduced to the basic courses. When you come out, you have to, that's why we say there's difference between knowledge and experience. We acquire knowledge and we gain experience. So when you come out, that is where you have to come and gain it. So you build on whatever you have been introduced to whilst you were a student. So when people say that we are not trained enough, we are not, come to the field and
Get the training.
that is it, the actuals.
So we would be right back. Stay tuned for more. It's Welcome back to AAU Talks on AAU TV. Our topic for discussion today is career guidance on civil engineering. With me in the studio are Engineer Anand and Engineer Apia. So before we went on break, we were discussing the higher education institutions and your time in school. Did you face any challenges with regards to your learning process when you were in school? Yeah, Mr. Apia.
Thank you very much. You know, during our time, there were not a lot of computers as we have them these days. I remember the whole School of Engineering, we had about 3 computers, and even getting access to computer, gone were the days people thought by even touching computer, you can even spoil it. And I remember when I was working on my project work, I have to call a teaching assistant to help me out to get access to a computer. Those were the things that were not available during our time. There were not a lot of computers. We didn't have access to computers. We were IT challenged. And when we came out, then we had issues with handling those things. Those were some of the challenges we had. And for our case, the facilities were not enough. We were managing with the few ones available. So I think those were some of the challenges we faced.
Mr. Anand, did you have similar challenges?
Yes. Virtually what he talked about. That time, we didn't have the opportunity to have access to computer softwares and programs like we do now.
Yeah.
Because now, with the aid of computers, you can do things very quickly. And our time, I think also practical-wise also, we didn't have much exposure. But theory-wise, it was okay. Yeah. The lecturers, they did their best.
Okay.
So basically,
Mr. Apia, you mentioned that the facilities were an issue. So do you think that Africa is producing enough civil engineers?
It will be difficult for me to talk for Africa. But for Ghana, I think we are producing. Because I remember our time, we were 51 in class.
Wow.
The whole,
University.
civil
for the whole
engineers.
country.
For the whole country.
Wow.
Yes. I think now there are even more than 500 for a batch. So we are producing. But I don't know whether the number we are producing is also matching with the job opportunities. For that one, I bet to differ. But they are now producing a lot. Unlike our case, my worry is the job opportunities. But after the production, I think they are producing a lot.
Mr. Anand, do you think we are utilizing the engineers we are producing? Or do we go outside and pick foreign engineers even though we have more than enough here?
We are utilizing them, but I'll say that there's a lot more that we need to do. Because, like he said from the beginning, Mr. Engineer Apia said, you need to be exposed as an engineer to a typical project. You see, before you can be that confident to handle certain projects. But this is a situation that looks as if most African countries are handicapped. Because most complex projects, you see them bringing engineers from outside or construction companies from outside just because we lack capacity here. Because sometimes even the criteria, the qualification criteria that they put there, a lot of Africans would not even qualify. So if you don't give an opportunity to your people, how would they be exposed? And how would they also build on their capacity to, let me say, I would wish that we have an African company that can also go to China and build their roads there. Yeah. But now we have a lot of Chinese companies getting all the lucrative jobs here. I think we are not doing enough to assist our people to become exposed, because you need to be exposed. You need to go through it. You need to go through a project. Then when you, after going through it, then you build that confidence that I can handle this project. If I can even go into detail, a senior colleague who is far older, is about 70 years, told me when he graduated from tech, they put up, those days they call it Job 600. That's a state house. Parliament House, without any foreign assistance. He said they didn't have a crane, they didn't even, but at that time, the leadership then, Kwame Nkrumah, saw the need to push, like to encourage his people to take up massive projects so that they can lead the continent in its development. But from then on, when these donors came in and all that, then things changed. You see projects, then you see Chinaman, you see someone from Europe.
China loan with Chinaman.
So these are some of the challenges that we face. Though we have very good engineers. Some of our colleagues are working all over the world.
Let me play devil's advocate here. Could it be that this happens because the Ghanaian engineers are too expensive?
Oh, not really.
No.
Not really. Considerably, we are very, very cheap. Some of the projects, even this, what these foreigners bring in, when they take them, we are the ones who do them.
Oh.
Because at the qualification stage, they qualify for those jobs. And then when they come in, they will sublet those jobs to us to do it. And they only put their firms, this thing on it. And they move on. Not that we are expensive. We are okay.
So the problem here is that government has too high of a standard for most.
It is not government. Okay, let him speak.
Yeah, you see, some of the projects are funded by foreign agencies.
Oh.
For instance, Badia, Bank for Arab Development, they are funding a project. And when they are funding a project, they want consultants and contractors from their country to be part of the project. So it's like they are giving you the thing with right hand and they are taking it with the left hand. So it's like that is also has been the norm and their system. So anytime they are bringing in projects, they bring along these same expatriates to come and handle their projects. And by doing so, we the Ghanaian engineers are supporting staff to them. They manage and they handle because they are bringing the fund. That's why there are a lot of Chinese contractors and after they have come, they don't go back.
Yeah.
They remain,
Yeah.
and because they have brought a lot of machines, they have brought a lot of equipment, and they don't want to take it back, but start also working in our country.
Yeah. To add to what he said, you see, most of this, everybody wants to create jobs for its citizens. Every country, it is their interest. That is their national interest, that they will create opportunities for their people. So when sometimes they will come in with aid, they will come in the form of aid. That maybe you want to build Accra in some road, part of it for you. And they will say it's free money, it's a grant, you take it. But when they will enter and then they will use that project to gain experience here. And then they will use that also to have access. It's like they will be known.
Yeah.
Then from then on, you realize that they don't want to go back. You see? So that is a situation that we find ourselves in now. Though we have a lot of qualified engineers, unfortunately, like they say, oh, they are Ghanaian engineers, you go about, but you see only these Chinese guys, only these Brazilians, and all. It is not our making. I mean, we need to do more.
Okay.
We need to do more.
So is government the key person who employs civil engineers? Most of the projects are government-based? Or can you have a private entity, like me, if I want to develop real estate, can I hire a civil engineer, or
Yes,
is
of
it just for government?
Oh, but there are private consultants, there are private contractors. Although I am a private consultant. If you have your money and you want any project, you can come to me. Once I know you too, I can give you some credit.
Government is not the only employer.
Okay.
Though governments and most of its agencies employ a lot of engineers. And then the private sector also employs a lot. But virtually everywhere in the world, government is the biggest employer, especially when it comes to engineering. The US, for instance, spends about more than 50% of its budget on the military.
Oh.
Yes, on research, on arms production and everything. It is just to create jobs for US companies, you see. And maybe if I will go back into history, civil engineering came out of military engineering. And in the olden days, they didn't have anything like civil engineering. It was military engineering, where maybe communities will have to protect themselves, build structures to protect themselves, or produce arms to protect themselves. Then eventually, about 200 years ago, then civil engineering came out of it. It's the second oldest profession after military engineering. So if you see the US spending billions of dollars on its military, it is nothing, but they just want to make sure that most of the money stays with US companies. Yes.
Okay. So in what ways can engineers help the African continent economically, Mr. Appiah?
You see, when we talk of economic issues, the basic thing is accessibility. The basic thing we have to consider is accessibility. If we can have easy accessibility from one point to another, the economy will grow. For instance, movement from one country to another country. How does it? We have a rail line which one can travel from maybe Ghana to Mali within the shortest possible by rail. It's also part of the engineering. Movement of people from one point to another, movement of goods from one point to another. For instance, we have harbor here.
Yeah.
Burkina doesn't have. Mali doesn't have. Niger doesn't have. They all carry their goods from here, our port, to those places. And look at the articulated trucks which transport from here to there. Sometimes it takes about 3 days, 4 days before it gets there. Assume we had a rail line which can easily transport these goods within a day. It will improve, the economy will improve. Apart from that, it will also open job opportunity for others as engineers, because road construction, rail lines, all of them will create job opportunity for engineers. And by so doing, the economy will also boost up.
Mr. Nan, do you have any?
Yeah,
to add on?
if I may add something to what he said, I will go back to Nkrumah's time, when Nkrumah started talking about uniting Africa, to have Africa as one entity.
Yeah.
It was a very good vision, but the best way to unite Africa is through infrastructure. If we can have a highway from, let's say, from Libya all the way to Pretoria, or have a rail line from Senegal all the way to Addis Ababa or to Nairobi, you see that it will facilitate easy movement of goods and services across the continent. And automatically, we will become one. Because if it is so easy for let's say, a trader here in Ghana to transport his maize, if they need maize somewhere in Mali where they don't have very good vegetation to grow crops, easily can transport it within a very short time. Automatically, it will have a wider market than just selling it in Ghana. You see, so infrastructure-wise, that's where civil engineers have a role to play across the African continent. We still have a long way to go as Africans. We should think African unity. We should start focusing on building our infrastructure across the continent to make it easy for us to move people, human beings, goods, and services across the continent.
Okay. Okay. So, you said civil engineering is very broad.
Yeah.
When it comes to civil engineering, would you call an architect or a draftsman a civil engineer?
No.
Okay.
They all have roles to play in civil engineering projects and activities. What an architect basically does is he brings what is not existing onto paper. Basically, that's what an architect does. The architect imagines and puts it on paper. But the civil engineer makes sure that what is on paper is put on the ground to become a reality. An architect imagines and puts it on a paper, but the civil engineer transfers what is on a paper to the ground and becomes a real structure. A draftsman basically does the same thing as an architect. But an architect has a degree or has a higher academic qualification than the draftsman. Yeah. There is a vast difference between an engineer and an architect. An architect designs, and after the design, he's completed his job. But a civil engineer, who is a structural engineer, have to make sure he completes the reinforcement, the quantity of iron rods that is needed for the various levels of the structure. Apart from that, a civil engineer also, who is a foundation engineer or geotechnical, is able to come out with the bearing capacity of the soil. Yeah. Because when a structure is put on a soil, there should be a stability. We have to make sure that the soil is able to withhold the structure. So certain computations are done and recommended to whoever the client or the financier of that very project. Yeah.
Okay. So if I want to study civil engineering, where would you recommend? Would you recommend a technical university or a university, like a traditional university?
That university should offer a program in civil engineering. Mm-hmm. And in Ghana, I know of KNUST. And then recently we have a few private universities that are offering it. I don't know, Legon, they don't. University of Cape Coast also, UDS also, they don't. Yeah. So basically it's KNUST, and then recently the polytechnics also, and have been turned into technical universities. Very soon they will be producing Bachelor of Engineers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And if I may add to the question that you asked,
yes.
The difference between an architect, a draftsman,
yes,
and then a civil engineer. We work together, but not on all projects. Mm. Yes, architects are basically concerned with buildings, houses, offices, hotels, schools. You see, they will visualize it, how it should look like, and put it on paper. The details, maybe the finishing and everything. Mm-hmm. They will do all those things. But an engineer, being the team, like he said, will have to look at the structural integrity of that building, the nature of the soils, and design an appropriate foundation for that building. And then also, we'll have to supervise the construction to make sure that it is executed according to specification. So we work with architects when it's on buildings, but when it's a highway, yeah, we don't need architects there. That's solely the work of civil engineers. Yeah. And then when it's an irrigation infrastructure, we don't work with architects. So we deal with many more things than the architects. A draftsman, basically, my father was a trained draftsman. He was water and sewage. Yeah. They basically will put your ideas, your designs or whatever on paper.
Trees.
Yeah. What if you is a structural drawing, after your calculation and everything, you just give your this thing to the draftsman, and the draftsman will put it on paper. The architect also, after his design, will give it to a draftsman to put it on paper and detail it. So we work together, but we all have different roles to play.
Yeah. Okay. So, with regards to our institutions, if I go and study something like mechanical engineering in a school, does that, for my BSc, does that qualify me to be called a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer?
No, you've got
How do they relate?
No.
Or they don't?
What you said mechanical.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
You see, mechanical engineer is a mechanical engineer. Civil engineer is a civil engineer. sometimes when we are working on projects, we need their expertise in it. Things that concern mechanical engineering, we rope them in to come and help. It doesn't make them civil engineers. Mechanical engineering is completely different aspect of engineering from civil. Same as electrical engineering. Some of the projects that we do, we involve electrical engineers to come and handle the electrical aspects. But when we come to civil engineering, it is basically the construction, putting up the structure, making sure the right specifications are put in place. Every design that is produced, we have technical specification. If we are constructing and we are using concrete, depending on the structure that you are constructing, if it's water retaining structure, there is a specification for the concrete. If it's a building, there is a specification for the building. So the civil engineer makes sure that all those specifications have been adhered to. Civil engineer makes sure once the thing is completed, there is also maintenance. But the mechanical engineer on that project might be dealing with the air conditioning, the heating system, all those things, which is also a special area. Electrical engineer deals with the electrical aspect. So project per se is multi-discipline. Huge projects are multi-discipline, but it doesn't make one move from one discipline to the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe Mr. Annan, you might like to give us a few words for our upcoming civil engineers and for institutions. Maybe give us a few last words before we end.
Yes. For those people who aspire to assist in the development of their country and Africa as a general, civil engineering is a very good area for you. So if you are in the secondary school now and you are aspiring to go to the university, if you're a science student, I will encourage you to study hard, take your mathematics, your physics seriously, develop special interest in it, read wide, and then come into our fold and come and assist us, because we still have a long way to go as Africans, because when it development, all the continents in the world, virtually we are the one lagging behind. So we still have a lot to do. So we encourage a lot more people to come into the profession.
Yeah, I think, civil engineering, it has a very broad spectrum, has a lot of branches, and once you study civil engineering, you come out wherever you find yourself, you can be there and improve upon your career. I will recommend civil engineering to anyone who is interested in engineering because of the opportunities around. When you go to any engineering field, some of the engineering projects, you find out that most of the engineering projects, you find out that more of the engineering professionals you need on, most of them are civil engineers. And there are a lot of opportunities. Right? We are still developing. We haven't developed. Infrastructure-wise, we are lagging. So there are a lot of opportunities there for more people to join us. We need them.
Thank you, Mr. Theophilus Annan, and thank you, Mr. Richard Osei, up here, for joining us on AAU Talks. And thank you, viewers, for also tuning in. Please don't forget to like the video, share your comments, visit our Twitter page on the handle AAU_67. Thank you.
Welcome.